buscaban justificar el acceso de hombres a vestuarios, baños y espacios deportivos reservados para mujeres. La congresista que aparece en pantalla planteó preguntas que generaron reflexión. Posteriormente, Riley Gaines, una destacada nadadora profesional estadounidense, compartió su experiencia personal en situaciones similares, aportando una perspectiva valiosa, y es que ella fue vencida con suma facilidad por Thomas, el trans que es nadador. Te invito a ver el video completo y compartir tu opinión. Pero antes, si disfrutas de este tipo de contenido, suscríbete a nuestro canal. Tenemos la meta a mediano plazo de llegar a los 100,000 suscriptores. Sin mayor dilación, comencemos.
We're here today because there's a proposal here, and there's several proposals here, to further marginalize trans women in sports. And I think about this all the time because trans people in the United States doesn't even exceed 1% of our population. And yet there is so many resources and energy and time dedicated to figuring out how we can more finely exclude them from our sports. And I thought, why? Why so much effort and dedication on such a tiny portion of the U.S. population when there virtually is no major issue that is precipitating? And I started to realize that a lot of these proposals here involve invasion of privacy of all women. Ms. Goss-Graves, can you tell us a little bit about what sex testing looks like for youth in states with trans athletic bans?
It's terrible. In some states, any individual could challenge whether someone is a girl enough to play. In some states, it requires actual genital verification, which is shocking. And there aren't, it's not as if there.
And let me just stop you right there. You said there are some proposals. I mean, we've seen this in Ohio. There was a proposed ban on trans athletes that originally allowed for genital examinations on minors in order to, quote unquote, protect women. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
And so we're seeing here, in this guise, under the guise of not only trying to further marginalize trans women and girls, we are talking about opening up all women and girls to genital examinations when they are underage.
That's right.
Potentially just because someone can point to someone and say, I don't think you're a girl.
That's correct.
And we're saying this in an environment of a post-Dobbs America where states are criminalizing access to abortion and want nothing more than data on women to figure out who's getting a menstrual cycle, who doesn't have one. And we're supposed to believe that this is going to make us better and safer? I think not. And per usual, I don't believe we're sitting here in a panel of men that has actually thought about the biology and privacy consequences of all women, trans or cisgender here. Ms. Goss-Graves, in addition to that, are there certain groups more likely to face discrimination under these bans when it comes to, and what you were speaking to, particularly when it comes to Black women and girls?
Yeah, we have seen that there are examples of Black women who are even professional athletes whose bodies have been more examined and demonized. We've seen that with my fan favorite, Serena Williams, whose body is often talked about. That sort of challenging them for who they are, if it is codified into law, is something that we would expect to see more.
And this also deeply intersects with a secondary issue, which is racial bias in the medical field. When we have vast proportions of populations that have been studied and tested are not racially or otherwise identity-based representative of the broader U.S. population. And so what gets determined as a norm oftentimes gets pegged to largely white populations that have been studied, and then Black women and girls are then further subject to marginalization. This has been in your experience and what you've seen as well, right?
That's correct.
And so we're supposed to sit here on this side of the dais and to ranking member Lee's point, see a party that has voted against women's access to abortion, voted against our right, the Lilly Ledbetter Equal Pay Act, voted against the Violence Against Women Act, voted against our right to have access to contraception, and also doesn't even vote for equal funding, equitable funding in women's sports. And I'm supposed to believe that this is who's looking out for my best interests? I think not. And to that, I yield back.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the gentleman.
I can't believe we're here, though. I can't believe we're holding a hearing today. As a matter of fact, I can't believe many things. Today we have something called gender-affirming care in our country, which is really cutting off the body parts of people in order to make them feel like they're another gender, which is completely wrong. And this is something being pushed on kids, cutting off their breast, castrating them, which really will lead to lifelong debilitating conditions, physical conditions, and mental illness. Hopefully not suicide, but unfortunately that is the case. Reproductive health care has been mentioned here. Even the term reproductive justice, which is really capital punishment for innocent babies. There's nothing reproductive about abortion. It's murder. But one thing I'd like to talk about right now is the Gallup poll that was done in May of 2023. 69% say transgender athletes should play on teams that match their birth gender or biological sex. But guess what? That's actually gone up because the left is losing the battle. Because in 2020, May of 2020, the exact same Gallup poll was done, and it was only 62% that agreed that transgender athletes should play on teams that match their birth gender or biological sex. So watching biological men dominating real women in sports is moving America's opinion to defend biological women and Title IX. This is a losing issue for Democrats because America fully agrees we have to protect women's sports. Ms. Goss-Graves, in 2013, the National Women's Law Center tweeted, "What have sports meant to you or a girl you know?" Tweet it with the hashtag, and then you put the hashtag. You responded, "National Girls and Women in Sports Day, I'm grateful to tennis. It is my late night outlet that I still play 20 years after high school." Do you still play tennis, Ms. Goss-Graves?
Not well anymore. My knees struggle.
But it's a great sport, and it's always fun.
Yes, I've enjoyed playing.
And you mentioned that you're a fan of Serena Williams. Is that right?
I am. I'm a Williams sister fan. I'm a tennis fan. I'm actually a fan of most sports. I grew up playing sports and in a family that understood that there is so much value in playing sports, whether you're the best or not the best.
I agree with you. And I'm a fan of Serena Williams, too. I think she's strong, I think she's powerful, and I think she's beautiful. In 2013, Serena Williams stated, "If I were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. No, it's true. It's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game." So sounds like she doesn't think she could beat men either. But let's talk about some of your comments. You said that this is attacking and dehumanizing on trans. Ms. Goss-Graves, how do you think Ms. Gaines felt? Do you think she felt dehumanized being forced to undress in front of men in her sports or attacked?
Here's what I think.
That's a yes or no question.
But if I could
being forced to undress in front of a man, isn't that dehumanizing or attacking?
I could answer this question, Madam Chairman, because I actually think this is really, really important. The issue of privacy in locker rooms and in bathrooms, there's a wide range of
So
ways
you feel like Ms. Gaines should have had privacy?
To address that. You could put up a curtain, you could put up a door, you could have rotations.
I reclaim my time, Ms. Goss-Graves. Ms. Gaines, did you feel attacked and dehumanized? Ms. Gaines, did you feel attacked and dehumanized?
I certainly did. And in swimming locker rooms, there are no curtains, there are no stalls, there are no doors.
But there could be. There could be curtains.
This is, I reclaim my time. It's Ms. Gaines right now.
That would be restructuring how I've competed in my entire 18 years of competing for what we've described in this hearing today as such a small percentage of the population. We would restructure and uproot what we're used to and what works and allows us to be. I think we can all agree a locker room in general is not a comfortable place, even of course in dressing in front of all women. But growing up a swimmer in that environment, again for 18 years of my life, you become comfortable being vulnerable in that environment. And my teammates and my competitors, we had our vulnerability stripped from us by the leaders of the NCAA and again, those who implemented this policy.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines.
La intimidad y la privacidad son aspectos fundamentales al utilizar un vestuario. Tener un espacio separado para mujeres les brinda la oportunidad de cambiarse de ropa, ducharse y realizar otras actividades personales de manera más cómoda y sin sentirse expuestas a la vista de otras personas. Esto es especialmente importante en situaciones donde puedan necesitar quitarse prendas de vestir íntimas o realizar cuidados personales. La presencia de un vestuario separado para mujeres puede generar un sentido de seguridad y tranquilidad. Al estar en un espacio exclusivo para mujeres, es menos probable que se enfrenten a situaciones incómodas, como el acoso verbal o visual por parte de violines. Esto puede ser especialmente relevante en entornos donde la presencia de hombres desconocidos, alias violines, pueda generar ansiedad o incomodidad. La presencia de otras personas, especialmente de género masculino, puede afectar su autoestima y confianza en su propio cuerpo. Tener un vestuario separado les brinda la oportunidad de sentirse más cómodas con su apariencia física y evitar comparaciones no deseadas con otras personas. La separación de vestuarios por género es una medida que puede contribuir a la prevención de violines, aunque no es una solución única ni garantiza la eliminación total de esto. Al separar los vestuarios por género se reducen las oportunidades para que estos violines accedan a espacios donde puedan perpetrar sus fechorías. Al estar en un vestuario exclusivo para mujeres, se reduce la presencia de hombres desconocidos que podrían representar un riesgo para la seguridad de las mujeres. ¿Y tú qué opinas? Déjamelo saber en los comentarios. Y aquí culmina este video. Si te gustó, dale like, comenta el video y compártelo. Gracias, hasta luego.